This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young on ESPN Radio 94.1.
Back here on this edition of 757 Saturday Sports Talk, the final one before Thanksgiving, brought to you by Larry King Law here on ESPN Radio 94.1 with the Coach Ed Young. I am Matt Hatfield and pleased to be joined for another segment with the former Virginia Tech Hokies All-Conference team captain out of Hampton High School. He's played for three Hall of Famers, if you will, with Mike Smith, Walter Brower, and, of course, Frank Beamer. We say hello again to Dwight Vick, founder of Victory Life. Go check it out online at victorylife.com. And today, as we go to more present topics when it comes to football, your school there, Dwight, Virginia Tech, the Hokies, I mean, they're up 1 week, down the next. And I think since that ODU upset of 2018, their defense has been hit pretty hard these last 32, 33 games. They're about 500 in that stretch. They've given up 30-plus a lot. But today, 4-4, they're taking on Pitt, who's 4-4, with the ACC sack leader from our area right here in Grassfield High School own Patrick Jones. And the next two games, should we play them? Hopefully we do with COVID not getting in the way. Clemson and UVA, the in-state rival. Where are the Hokies right now? And how's the future look for them with Justin Fuente in your eyes?
You know what? I've been asked that question a lot, Matt, about, the future of Virginia Tech football with Coach Fuente. There's no secret. He started off with a bang, winning the Coastal Division in his first year, had great talent that was left over from the Beamer era with Greg Stroman, Tim Settle, the Edmonds brothers, and Isaiah Ford and Cam Phillips and hometown favorite Bucky Hodges. But since they've had some good seasons, the following year they went 9-4. They had redshirt freshman Josh Jackson beat West Virginia, and he had 20 touchdowns that season. Finished the season ranked, and then they had a tough season where they went 6-7, lost in the bowl game to Cincinnati, and then last year they went 8-5. Started off poorly with some tough losses to Duke and Boston College, and then ended up getting that great run after beating Miami. I think what you're looking at with Virginia Tech, and I would even throw in UVA right now, the state of the Commonwealth with the two biggest programs, there's a bit of uncertainty, and the Commonwealth as a whole deserves better. I think JMU and Liberty and even a few other programs, ODU at times has held the flag for the Commonwealth much better. I'm a proud Hokie alum. I love the team. I don't really advocate for anybody to be fired, but I know Ed knows this, and Matt, you cover stuff. I watch all your stuff. You cover all of it. You both understand the importance of accountability and consistency. Whether you work at Foot Locker, you're a manager, or you're a pastor, or you're a principal, you have to achieve. You have to have success. I mean, it's a tough position, but that's what it calls for. Obviously, you look at them right now, you had a really, really tough and somewhat embarrassing loss to Liberty. Shout out to Liberty. I got 2 masters from Liberty, so it was a win-win for me, even though I played at Tech. But I'm happy to see an in-state school like Liberty, what they've built, but at the same time, Virginia Tech, there was a time schools like JMU and ODU and Liberty didn't even think and consider beating schools like Tech and UVA. But I think when you look at Virginia Tech right now, they just need to establish an identity. I do think it was right to retire the lunch bell D, but right now it's been tough for Justin Hamilton, a new defensive coordinator, to take over for a legend in Bud Foster. He started the season off, with COVID issues, had a newborn baby. There was no spring football season. There was no winter workouts. So in a lot of ways, he wasn't able to really establish his brand of football, even though he was on the coaching staff last year. So right now, in my humble opinion, Virginia Tech needs to win today. They need to beat UVA and have a great showing against the class of college football and Clemson Tigers. If they don't, and they struggle down the stretch and go 4-7 or miss a bowl, in a day and age where anyone can go to a bowl versus my era, that's not a good look. Now, right now, there's reports as a university, Virginia Tech is $60 million, $50 million in the red. So right now, when it comes to buyouts and things like that, you have a million bloggers on Twitter right now. We know how Twitter goes, speculating about buyouts and boosters having the money. If you're Coach Fuente and his staff, you got to tune all that out. I was on great teams at Virginia Tech where we had great leaders, and we didn't have Twitter, but we still had fans, and we still had message boards as that internet was coming about. And you have to ignore it. You have to come together. I think the biggest question mark when I watch Virginia Tech is they seem to have a lot of offensive talent, but at times they go into a shell. They led Miami last week 24-13, and then they had two possessions consecutively where they stopped Miami and King, and they held Miami's dynamic quarterback. He didn't really do much. And they got possessions on the 38 and the 39-yard line against Miami in the fourth quarter and didn't do anything. And that subsequently cost them the game. Yet you have Holston, who was running the ball well, Trey Turner, you have great receivers. You have even Khalil Herbert, the great transfer from Kansas, who was limited with a hamstring injury but still was picking up good yardage. You would think they would put that game away. I think right now on defense, you just need to simplify things. And I think you just got to play with passion. I've said this on air on different shows, and I'll say it on yours. After the year in which Coach Fuente won the Coastal Division Championship, this program has not done anything as far as winning anything. They haven't won any bowl games. They haven't won any division titles. So right now, you're not in a position to assume we'll come out flat. I know Wake Forest is better than what we thought, but Virginia Tech is a better program than Wake Forest. You're not supposed to lose to Wake Forest and Liberty. And I can speak on losing against teams and inferior opponents because arguably I was one of the worst upsets in college football history. In 1998, we were ranked 14th and lost to Temple at home. And anyone that knows in the 90s and the 80s how bad Temple was, just Google it. So that was the historic loss that still today ESPN and Sports Illustrated and many publications consider one of the worst upsets in college football history. However, that season, we gave up 3 leads, one to UVA, one to Syracuse, and one to Temple, in which we led by 14 or more points. But we still finished the season with 9 wins, ranked in both polls, and we went 9-3 and beat Alabama in the Music City Bowl, the inaugural Music City Bowl, giving them their worst loss in bowl history. So we still finished the season strong and ranked and gave momentum to the 99 team that eventually played for a national championship against Florida State. So that's all great history lessons, and that's what Virginia Tech fans are tired of hearing about. They're tired of hearing about history lessons. They want to move forward and evolve. People don't realize, unless you do the numbers, at one time Virginia Tech was the class of the ACC after entering the conference in 2004. If you look at their numbers between 2004 and 2011, they owned that conference. They had conference championships. If they didn't win it, they were playing for it. And I remember when Dabo came on the scene in 2011, Virginia Tech was going for a repeat conference championship with Logan Thomas at quarterback. I was actually in the stadium in Charlotte. And Clemson, led by our guy Taj Boyd, beat the Hokies very badly. And from that moment on, Dabo hasn't looked back. And Clemson has evolved into the best program along with Alabama. So
no question.
Virginia Tech's trying to recapture that magic, but it's going to take some identity searching, some soul searching to reestablish what they need. And a lot of that starts with, your game planning, your scheme, your effort, and also recruiting.
Ed?
Dwight, a lot of great points you're making. The thing I see about Tech is, they were that power, as you say. When you guys were there, it was like unquestioned. You wouldn't even think of playing Liberty, let alone losing to Liberty. Now you've got players at Liberty who would do well at Virginia Tech. Clemson, back in the day, what was a Clemson? Now, quite honestly, in my opinion, they're the best football program, college football program over Alabama, over an LSU type.
Without question.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Now, how did that all happen? It's all about recruiting of what you be able to bring in. Now, how they got those kids, how they were able to get them in there, that's a whole other story because you and I both know at that level, I've coached a couple years Division I, some crazy things happen in it, and those that can cover it up well and get away with it could end up finding themselves really winning. Those that don't know how to handle it, find yourself on probation, and I'll leave it at that. But it really comes down to, in coaching, I like to take it away from the coaches. Yes, we can screw things up as coaches, but you're as good as what you recruit. You're as good as what you coach. If you don't recruit 5-star athletes, you better coach your butt off with what the heck you have and have some threes. But if you have a bunch of 1 and 2s and you're playing 4s and 5s, you're going to lose pretty much all the time because it's just the way it is. And Virginia Tech has to take a look around and maybe say, we've got to do some things, and I'm not talking illegal and all that, to get back and be involved with those 4-star recruits and a few 5s. Especially, you got to handle your state.
Ed, let me just add to that. You are 100% right. Let me just add to that. And I've said this, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm a Frank Beamer disciple, as you know, And I feel like the Tidewater region, now the Richmond area, Northern Virginia, and heck, even Lynchburg and Southwest Virginia have come to the table where the Commonwealth of Virginia has become a very elite state. It's no longer the best kept secret like it was in the 80s and 90s. Obviously we've had guys like Dre Bly, the great Dre Bly, Lawrence Taylor, and Ronald Curry go to schools like North Carolina. North Carolina and some schools have always come down to our state, especially in that region. But now Ohio State and Clemson has. But here's the thing. The blueprint has never changed. I'm a Frank Beamer and even to some degree a George Welsh disciple. You have to win your state. There are too many talented players who are you see at Boston College. You can't get them all, but they're at Clemson and Notre Dame and Wake Forest. And you're like, why are they not in Blacksburg? And I think, when you look at what I know, even though I played eons ago, the formula hasn't changed. You have to win your state. If you look at guys like Cam Chancellor and Brendan Hill and Roniel Whitaker and DJ Parker and Aaron Rouse, all those guys, some of them were heavily recruited. Some of those guys were just very good athletes that Coach Steinspring went down there and plucked, and they came to Virginia Tech, and you had that Commonwealth pride. And you also look at, Ed, to your point about the pipelines that Virginia Tech had on lock for decades, Deep Creek, Western Branch, Hampton High, Phoebus, Thomas Dale. You had a plethora of schools in which every year you knew Tech was getting 2 or 3 of those guys. Look at Highland Springs. At one time, just recently, LJ, Lauren Johnson, who ironically is a Virginia Tech alum and one of the best defensive backs who ever played at Tech, is the head coach at Highland Springs. And Mekhi Becton went to Louisville, and Wallace went to Clemson, and the kid Greg Dortch, went to Wake Forest. Look at Dion Newsom went to Hampton. His younger brother, Myron Newsom's other son, Daz Newsom, went to UNC, and he's going to the league. Those are the guys that need to be in Blacksburg. I can't remember his name, but he's at Notre Dame now. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, defensive player at Notre Dame.
Jeremiah Wusu. You're talking about Jeremiah Wusu from Bethel.
Yeah,
and not just that, Dwight, not to cut you off here, but you're making a great point here with the family connection, because even Cam's nephew, Keandre Lambert from Maury High School, I remember being there. The number of Hokies fans at that gymnasium at Maury thought, this is a done deal, and he goes to Penn State. You look at Penn State right now, they can't get a win.
And that's what is frustrating Tech fans. And let me say this again: everybody gets on these shows, and I've always loved this show, even especially when I was growing up. But at the end of the day, guys get on these shows, and our fan base is the best. I will say this again: I've been around some great fan bases, and I'm not so biased I can't see other great fan bases. But Virginia Tech, Hokie Nation, is so passionate. Virginia Tech has gotten to bowl games maybe they weren't supposed to go to because of their following and their ability to travel. Hokie Nation has been dedicated since Beamer's arrival. Even before Beamer, you go back in the 70s, but especially when Beamer took that program to new heights. And what's happening now, it's not so much this tragedy and this rock bottom. It's just hugely disappointing. That's why I said in our segment, the Commonwealth deserves better. People get surprised when I say, you want UVA better? Absolutely. Look at the games I played against UVA, where you had in-state guys from Warwick and Deep Creek and Maury and all these schools. And that's so fun because you continue what you started in high school on the collegiate level. And it's great for the Commonwealth. We should want both teams ranked in the top 20. But as far as my alumni, Virginia Tech, we have to lock in our state. I'm not a big fan of the Texas to VT hashtag thing. The whole UNC, North Carolina, we were getting guys. Obviously, it's paid huge dividends with Hendon Hooker, Dax Hollifield, and Trey Turner. Those guys are dynamic. And Virginia Tech, during my time, did get guys from other states. You had guys from Florida, especially Florida, and Georgia, but it's always been Virginia Tech. You look at in 2005 when Virginia Tech played, after winning the conference in 2004, they played in 2005 in the inaugural ACC championship game. That team was close to winning the national championship led by Marcus Vick. And they lost to Florida State, who played Penn State later that season in the Orange Bowl because they won the conference in that game. Virginia Tech, I believe, lost 27-22. But on that defense that was ranked fourth, I think they ended up being third or fourth in the nation. They had 11 of the 12 starters on defense were from the Commonwealth of Virginia. That included a DB and the other guy, my God, he's a friend of mine, not Vegas, Vince Hall.
Yeah,
so
from
Vince
Western
Hall
Branch,
was from the South Side. Vince Hall, and you had a DB from Phoebus. And you had DJ Parker from Phoebus. You had Aaron Rouse from Virginia Beach. And those guys went to the league. So don't tell me that we can't win with the Commonwealth players. I'm not going to question coaches because, Ed, as you guys know, Matt, you interview some great coaches. You know how hard it is to go in there. And I agree with your sentiments, Ed. It's on players. That's why you see me tweet, where's the leadership? Where's the guys? But sometimes if you're not from that state, or sometimes if you don't understand the legacy that you're playing for when it comes to Virginia Tech, you may not have that same sense of urgency. I knew what it meant to play in state. I knew what was done before me when I got there and what the guys like Cornell Brown and those guys started. So there's a connection. I think right now, that's why when you see announcers on game day on TV describe Virginia Tech as up and down, because that's exactly what they are.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say this, one final point about that. You can still salvage your season with a win against Pitt and a win against UVA. I'm not going to speak as confident about Clemson, but you can still, then okay, you finish the season winning 2 out of 3. But that's really on the players and whether or not they want to finish strong.
It really is. Well, this has been a blast talking with you, Dwight. I'm sure we'll get you back on again. Go check it out, victorylife.com, his website. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Vic757. The cousin of Michael and Marcus, the former Hokie great, captain, offensive lineman, standout all-conference, and former Hampton Crabber. A real pleasure, my friend. Best of luck to you and your Hokies today, and we'll keep in touch, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you both, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Great job, Dwight. Great job.
We appreciate Dwight Vick for coming on the program today, the former Hokie and Crabber great here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. And we'll take a timeout. We've still got buy or sell, college football style, and the pick 3 selections. Throwing a little local 757 flavor with that, too, right here on your home for sports. Whether it's pro, college, or high school and local, we have you covered right here on ESPN Radio 94.1.